It's almost sunset once again, and I am reminded, you gotta do your Instagram Live for consistency, even though life isn't consistent, but continuously not only showing up for others, but for myself, to know that I can keep promises to myself and to be integrity with myself. Speaking of integrity, something that I've been reminded of is when it comes to integrity, it is taken from the word integer. If you remember math, integer means whole numbers. And so when we don't feel like we're in integrity with ourselves, it's because we don't feel whole. So there might be a little gap that we might need to fill. That can be communicating boundaries, communicating needs, communicating truth, whatever the case may be. And so speaking of truth today, I want to share about how I'm taking things not only day by day, but almost moment by moment. And I also want to share with all of you how I'm going to be shifting on this platform, just so that you're not surprised as it starts to develop over time. So as I was saying, I'm not going from day to day anymore. Like, how's your day? How are you doing? What was your week like? I'm to the point where I feel like I'm increasing in consciousness that it's becoming more of a moment to moment thing. And having to use the tools and resources to make sure that I'm keeping myself in a state that feels good, feels expansive and not contractive. I think those two words have been falling into my ether, and just wanting to be aware, like in the things that I do I feel expansive or do I feel contractive? When I communicate with certain people, do I feel expansive? Do I feel contractive? When I eat certain foods, do I feel expansive or do I feel contractive? Halloween candy. That's a different debate. But what I know for sure is that I appreciate the spaciousness and the tools that I have to be able to say, like, okay, I'm feeling a little contractive right now. How can I go outside? How can I stand in the sun for a little bit? How can I go for a walk? Even with these doggos over here, I'm like, how can I get some touch in my life and just pet them, and show them some love? How can I get out of myself and give to others? And I just feel so grateful because in the moment to moment of being aware of my thoughts, and it's just running amok sometimes. I'm just so grateful for the continuous practice and example of Jesus, realizing that he is the highest example of superconscious and also the highest example of metaphysics. And so for me, it's just every time I feel my thoughts veering away, I'm like, okay, how do I get back to Jesus? Like, how do I get back to like super consciousness? How can I get back to highest consciousness and be like, okay, what is Jesus's thoughts? And a lot of times it's thankfulness. A lot of times it's gratefulness. And it's like, okay, how can I get back to being grateful? And so much so that I even have timers I set timers every day to pattern interrupt myself to just like have a moment of gratitude. And sometimes, I'm in the flow of things. I'm like, like another alarm. And it's like every hour just to pattern interrupt and be like, okay, what am I grateful for in this moment? Annoying sometimes, but more importantly, just great to just break myself out of whatever I'm feeling, whatever I'm thinking, and to be like, okay, how can I find a moment of gratitude? And so to be fully transparent, today has been a lot of feelings of frustration. Frustration with myself and realizing, again, being a generator. Hi, hello. See, he knows. I'm still learning. As Filipinos, I can't speak for all Filipinos. My Filipino household, we didn't treat pets the same way Americans treat pets. So it's a nice little change, even though they're stinky and they shed everywhere. And I need a lint roller all the time. Yeah, I know. You want to say hello to everybody. This is Nebula, short for Nebby. Actually, his name used to be Ben before he was adopted, so it was cool that it got switched to Neb. And then Nova's over there. She's 8 years old, and he's 4 years old. Yeah, say hi to everybody. You want to go for a walk? Okay, we need to go for a walk after this live. And that's been the beautiful part. Something I've been thinking about lately is like being on this little sabbatical, in this retreat, and having 2 puppers and realizing like they will remind you like, hey, you should probably go for a walk. You should go take a break. You should get some fresh air. Thankfully, their owner is not on Instagram anymore, so they don't know how little rough razzle I am with them. Yeah, been feeling frustrated with myself. Again, sharing about like what it means to be a generator in human design. The two feelings that you feel is frustration or satisfaction, and just feeling frustrated with myself in a way that I know that I have so much to give, and yet I'm kind of like in a golden cage right now. I kind of, when I think of golden cage, I think of Elvis. If you didn't get the chance to watch that movie, and also because it's my dad and my mom's go-to guy, right? My dad wants to be Elvis, my mom wants to marry Elvis, you know? But it's kind of like being in a golden cage, you know, grateful to have food, shelter, and water, but at the same time, what pulls on me every day is the fact that I'm figuring out how to serve people at the best of my capability. And I know it's like, just, this is the messaging I'm hearing. It's like, you have something to give with where you're at. Like, start with where you're at. How do they say? Give with where you're at with what you can, or something like that. And yes, that can happen. There's been times when I'm like sitting here in this golden cage. I was like, I should just go to my neighbors and knock on their door and be like, can I help you with anything? Those are thoughts I've been having for the past 48 hours. But yeah, that's the frustration I've been feeling with myself, because yeah, I just have so much to give, and I'm in this state of like, how can I package in this very distracted world, internet driven modern world, to be like, hey, this is the best that I have for you. This is compartmentalizing my energy, my talents, my skills and abilities. And are you willing to do an energy exchange called commerce and money? And, but I'm getting to the point of frustration where I just don't even want to talk anymore. Like, even like there's been times I'm like, I don't even want to do my Instagram live anymore. But I'm like, no, like just keep showing up, because whatever you're documenting right now, first off, you have evidence that you're working between being an employer to becoming an entrepreneur. So this is probably the biggest jump I've done since probably high school to college, I would say. And then I guess like maybe when you leave college. But like this feels the most like significant jump in my life, most significant leap, because it's really undoing the past 30 years of programming. And so to be in the messy middle of this, and the muck and yuck of all of it, like it's not as easy as like I'm gonna be an employee to an employer or to an entrepreneur. It's like, no, like everything that you have been indoctrinated with and programmed with, particularly around money, around talents and skills, around specialized knowledge, around all of these things, it's like, oh, it's so uncomfortable, y'all. I wish I'm sharing it with you. I'm trying to share it with you because I know one day I'll be able to come back to these Instagram lives and put a gift together for those who are also willing to make this leap, also willing to make this jump. And what I'm gathering so far, it's not, I mean, maybe people are going to want to know how to leap from being an employee to an entrepreneur, but I think more importantly, what's happening and what I'm getting the chance to document is the like mindset shift. It's the reprogramming shift. It's like having the guide to actually do the work and the resources that I'm synthesizing all together. So it doesn't make any sense right now, but at least as I'm going through this Life Leap program, as you all know, and transitioning to the last part of this video, is that I'm so frustrated with myself that I'm literally sitting here for 12 hours, just going through this course, taking it seriously and wanting to do it to the best of my ability, and realizing I feel so grateful to have Glow and Stefan as my coaches, because what I'm realizing is that it's not necessarily about being the best or an authority or an expert. It's just being able to help the one person who's a step behind you. And that's been such an amazing shift, because I think a lot of times when we're on social media, we're like, all of these people are experts. They have been doing it for the past 20 years or whatever the case. It's like, no, like, how can you create structures where you can literally just help the person that's one step behind you, and whatever the case that may be. And so for me, I'm at that point where I'm like, I just want to put my phone, like, I want to like turn off my phone for like the whole day. Going back to like distractions and addictions and devices, again, it's not something I'm fully over, but I'm willing to experiment with that. Like, what does it look like at this point? Because I'm at the point where I'm like, I'm just leaving my phone. When I leave this place, I leave the phone here. But the tension is when you're at home, how do you leave the phone in the other room or just turn it off altogether? And maybe the only time I turn it on is when I come to do my live. I don't know, something I'm thinking about, but I'm at such a point of frustration that I'm like, literally like, stop talking and start doing. And so as I'm finishing up this program, I'm literally in the last module right now, so you're gonna start seeing a lot of things that are gonna be different as I'm showing up on here. A lot of imperfect practice, and so I just want to completely share with y'all that like I'm gonna start shifting to who I'm gonna be serving. To be transparent, for those who do follow me now, I think we just met each other, and so that's why we follow each other. But as I'm going through these modules and learning about who I want to serve, like it's coming around to wanting to serve coaches and other educators who are not in the educational system. And then also getting back into the educational system and serving student leaders at colleges and universities, because I know that they're going to need support after graduating. And so for me, I'm like, how can I be that bridge between these coaches who didn't become educators in higher education or secondary ed or primary ed, and then how can I help these young people who are just graduating and need help bridging that gap and transitioning? And I think that's one thing that has been a pattern that I've noticed, is that I really love transitions, even though I'm in one right now. It really is poopy sometimes, but like we don't talk about it enough and we don't support people enough in transitions. And so I'm somehow in the way going to be figuring out how to build this brand around mentorship. So I think it's something that is my pain point, is figuring a lot of things out for myself as a first generation, second generation Filipino in the States, not being able to go to family and be like, how do we navigate these new lands? But also just like even going through the educational system and thinking about the lack of guides I've had in my life and the lack of mentors. Like I've had them for moments, but learning like how to go through life with people. And it's a little different and difficult nowadays, because I think we're so quick to just like cancel each other or just let people be in certain seasons. And I know this because it's what I've done. And it's difficult because now I'm at a place where I'm like, hey, yo, like I'm here to help people and I want to do the things, but now I don't know how to explain this, but I feel like the life that is like current reality that I'm observing, I've already lived that as a young person, in a very isolated state, growing up as practically an only child. And so there's a lot of things that I'm working through, but again, I'm going to be shifting a lot of my content towards mentorship, and towards wanting to serve and support coaches and community leaders, and really wanting to build content towards like young adults, particularly young leaders, student leaders, and really wanting to meet them where they're at with Death to Distraction, along with my other offer of doing my shortcut reel. So I'm still making sense of all this. I'm going deep into this Life Fleet program. I just wanted to share with all of you, like, hopefully you get to see some evidence of effort and trying and failing over and over again. And if you want to give feedback on it, thank you, I appreciate it. But I just want to let you know, like, if that doesn't feel conducive for you, then that's totally okay. And if it does, awesome. Again, the frustration with myself is like, let's just turn everything off and do the thing. So I'll let you know if I end up turning off my phone and see how that goes. And yeah, I'm very curious, because even though I'm not as addicted as I used to be, I'm much, much, much further along. I say this wholeheartedly because this is my last note before I let y'all go, and I continue. I walk the doggos and I do the thing and enjoy the sunset. We might go to the beach, I don't know. But the last part I read was talking about making sure to price based off of your value and not off of people's budget. And so I started kind of going deep a little bit into some of my track record and my breadcrumbs. And this is not to impress anybody or anything. This is just me being like, look, girl, like, you've done things. You know what you're doing, and you can price based off of that. So what was the part I was going to share with you? Oh, yes. I was going through all of my stuff and I was writing down numbers. I have like over 3,000 pieces of like content on the internet and almost 800 videos on the internet. I've launched like 3 podcasts and like too many YouTube channels. And that's not, like I said, it's not to impress you, but I was like, okay, like, kid, you know what you're doing. What I found was funny is that I went to a personal audio journal, in the midst of probably the worst time of my life. And I documented almost every day. That's why this is easy for me. But I did it all through audio. And how many episodes did I have on there? I had 326 episodes on there. And I was stunned. I was like, I talked to people for a whole year, almost a whole year. The last episode I posted was, again, back to the 12 ways your phone is changing you, which is the inspiration of Death to Distraction, which is just funny to me because like that's how much of an impact that book has had on me, so much so now that I'm like taking it to the next level. And so I was just like, wow, like this book has really done a number, and I think it's just trying to tell me that it wants to come into fruition so that it can get to people in different ways. So I just found that super, super surprising. But yeah, I hope that, I don't know if you've all gone through your own personal content, if you've seen things or whatever the case may be, but I would say for a long time one thing that I would think that was unique about myself was how like I was such an avid documenter, and so much so before I was writing down like all of like evidence that I do this, the thing that I do, I have some old printed blogs because my coach, we're the same age, and she puts on her bio that she's been creating online content for over 20 years. I was like, sis, we the same age. I need some evidence that I've been creating blog posts since MySpace. But she beat me to it because she was on Zynga. That's fine. But my first blog post was in 2002. So I was like, yeah, that's over 20 years of creating content online. So yeah, I was only able to find 4,000 pieces of content in the past couple hours. But I was like, okay, if I've been blogging since MySpace days, I had to avid documenter. I've printed out all of my blogs since I was a kid. So yeah, maybe it's a thing. Maybe it's a thing and worth commenting and saying like, hey, if I'm going to help you with online content or showing up authentically online or whatever the heck that may be, this is the evidence. I've been doing this for over 20 years. Here's the pieces of video content I can find that's online, but all the other stuff that's been taken down because MySpace is now a music page or whatever it is. I gotta go find that for you. So anyways, just wanted to share the process that it's not necessarily about how the day is going, it's how you're feeling from moment to moment. Feeling a little frustrated, and so much so that I'm gonna experiment turning off my phone throughout the day, or at least leaving it in the other room until I give myself some grace to take a break. And yeah, we're gonna start changing our messaging on here. So if you are not into mentorship at all, then I will see you all on another platform, another day, another time, and another life. All right, I'm gonna go walk these doggos because they're getting a little crazy. Bye, y'all.